Eastern Michigan is a special place with special people. They want to give back to the school programs, to the faculty, to the university, to any way they can. And many of those people who make up Game Above and are willing to give back with their time and their finances are with us here today. TJ Lang, who won a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers. Jill Boone, who was a 4-year letter winner in volleyball. Charlie Batch, who won 2 Super Bowls with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Successful entrepreneur, Keith Stone. And of course, Stephanie Pulaski, who is a 4-time academic All-American and one of the greatest basketball players, if not the greatest basketball player in Mid-American Conference history. George Gervin joins us. You guys constantly get tugged and pulled at with your time and people asking for some type of donation. Why is this so important to you?
It's simple. For me, I really haven't been back in 30 years. So having some time, having some ability to give back, it's not just financial, it's time, putting in the time and the effort. And it's a love. I had a father that went to Eastern, a mother that went to Eastern, a sister that has passed that went to Eastern. So for me, it's deep rooted.
When I was a young guy at Eastern, we had a brand new lounge built in our player facility, right? We're not going to mention any names, but we had a lot of guys.
It was pretty good.
Right, it was awesome.
We did the best we could.
And it made you, it made us athletes feel like we had, people rooting for us, and we feel like we had a family that, even though we didn't see their faces or know their names, I think it was important because it made you sort of feel just welcome and wanted. And I think a big thing with the students that are at Eastern now and the last 4 or 5 years, every time I go back there, and I know Charlie goes back there, I think you just see their faces like, man, people want to come see us. We still have a lot of deep fan base and a lot of great alumni.
And I think for me it was a little different because I had no idea where Eastern Michigan was at. I'm a Pittsburgh-born guy, and I just remember Coach coming down recruiting a receiver that we had on the team, and he kind of looks over and he's like, who's the guy throwing the ball to him? Who is that guy? Who's offering him at this point? I didn't have any offers at that point. And I just remember the coach saying, hey, why don't you come on up for a visit? Got up there, fell in love with the campus. And of course, that was at a time where they were renovating Rynearson Stadium. And they went from one side of the stadium, they added the press box or upper deck of the press box and the other side of the stadium. So we were there part of the construction. I'm just like, wow, this is kind of where you're trying to go. And it was really one of those things that I felt like I really wanted to be a part of, and I don't regret my decision at all.
To your point, I think it's been easy for you. When we talked to you about joining and being on this advisory board, I don't think you hesitated. I think this is in your DNA, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think this is something that, it plays a lot on things that I'm doing back at home, but it kind of started at Eastern, and a lot of people really don't know that story, but when I was there, I was a junior, and I remember being on campus, receiving a phone call from my mother telling me I needed to come home. And I just remember at the deepest waddle that I've ever heard in my life, she said, Charlie, your sister's been shot and killed. And at that point, literally calling Coach Dan Henson at that time, he was our offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, and he came to the house, we talked, and he, sent me on my way, and going home and going through that whole process. And, I was kind of at that crossroad because I didn't know if I wanted to stay home. I didn't know if I wanted to come back, but it was that trying time. And I knew I had a family back in Pittsburgh, but also had a family at Eastern Michigan. And they were so supportive in that time. And I said, you want to know what? If I was ever in position to give back, I would.
Well, I think it's also interesting you knew that you were going to give back so early in your career. Jill, when did you know that Eastern made such an impact on your life that you felt like it was important to give back?
Eastern gave me a lot of opportunities. I am a firm believer that college is what you make of it, but you need a place that will give you a platform to succeed. And when I was there, it wasn't just hey, you go play volleyball because that's what your scholarship is and everything else doesn't matter. Instead, it was, hey, you play volleyball, and you know what? If you want to go study abroad for 6 weeks in the summer, go to Spain. If you want to go and, major in something that's not a typical major for the volleyball team in the past, go do it.
The encouragement, right?
Right.
It's the encouragement
Right.
from staff, but also from the people who you are closest with your coaches. Stephanie, George, did you guys have the same feel from your coaches and your profs?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously when you're going through the recruiting process, you visit, different universities. I'd probably been to 7 or 8 prior to Eastern. I knew as soon as I walked on Eastern's campus that was...
Why?
Why? Yeah.
It was a feeling. I mean, I got to go to class with some of the girls, and the professors took an interest. They saw me, they didn't recognize me, they came over and they introduced themselves.
So it was
the
the
other
people.
professors, it was.
the
It was
people.
immediately. It was
Yeah.
the team, it was the coach, but it was just the feeling around campus that, they wanted you there. I went to 2 different classes, and both professors, one was a 300-person lecture, and both came up and said, introduce
So
themselves.
you went to your classes.
That wasn't my recruiting trip, but yes, I did go to my classes.
Even on Fridays and all that? Okay, that's
If
big.
we weren't, on the road, I did try to go.
We'll verify. We're going to verify that, just so
Okay,
you know.
hold on.
George, what's the message you send or give to people when you're out and around talking to inspirational speeches with kids and so on and so forth? Because
Well,
you're
I mean,
the
you
most
know,
famous EMU alum.
I went to Long Beach State first, and didn't like it at all. And then made that transfer to Eastern. All my guys was here, the guys that I played ball with. So Eastern kind of gave me that platform, made me feel comfortable. And I had a great coach, Jim Dutcher, y'all know about Bowen Field. None of y'all played in Bowen Field.
When I was there, we used to watch there.
Man, I mean, what a
That was
place to play, and the support that we got. I mean, I guess that's what we want these kids to see. We are part of that support that we want you to kind of feel what we felt. Eastern was great for me. I got my honorary doctors from Eastern. That's my school.
But I think it was time. This game above, it was time for this group to come together. At all different ages, backgrounds, everything. To let Eastern know, let current students, future students, this school's got it. And it really has got it. We're in the shadow of a school that's just up the road, but there's some tremendous people that are coming out of this school.
But when you say it's got it,
It's
describe
the people.
it for me.
I mean, she definitely touched it. It's the people, right? I mean, I hang with some of these guys here. I had my chance to get with Charlie here and got to know that it's the people that are coming out of there. There's, I know it's got this blue collar mentality work, but everybody's coming above that.
We're playing the Packers in Super Bowl 45, and I'm going through, I'm like, there's a guy from Eastern Michigan. I have to make sure I meet him.
I
And
do
at
the
that
same
point,
thing.
and I'm looking, and I'm like, I have to meet him. And then it got to the storyline. I'm like, there's a chance for me to have 3 Super Bowl rings, TJ none, or 2, and TJ gets
didn't
one.
wanna say
Either
anything
way,
in the introduction with, 1 and 2.
either way, somebody coming out of Super Bowl
But
45.
you're looking for an Eastern
Yes, I'm looking for
person.
Eastern.
I do
My
the
point in
same.
that was saying somebody from Eastern Michigan today will walk out of here with a Super Bowl trophy.
Well, I had Kenny McIntosh was before me.
Oh, yeah.
And Kenny
one of the greats out of Eastern.
And he became a
Yep.
pro. Earl Higgins
Oh, sure.
was one before me.
Sure.
So I knew the competition was there. So that's the ladder I wanted to climb. I wanted to be one of the best to come out of Eastern, so I had to work. In order to have success, you got to put work into it.
I've got a social science degree. No kidding. What do you do with that? So my roommates in college still busted me on, what do you do with social science? You become an entrepreneur, because you don't know, right? So I was like a class away from a business degree, a class away from history degree. So I went and sat with my 4.5 years in now, and I say, how do I graduate? And she says, well, you're social science degree. So what do you do with that? So you don't need to know. Right. It's about your work ethic. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think is the base of what we're talking about. That's what Game Above is. That's what everybody's at this table is talking about.
And the good part is at Eastern, when you finally do figure it out, you have so many resources and opportunities.
If I were to ask you guys as a group, I was thinking about this as we were sitting down, what traits do we have today that we had back in college?
You got to work at it, man. I guess that's what we want to keep introducing to young people. You got to work at it.
Doesn't come easy.
It ain't this, you got to get out there and work, and you'd be surprised what you can do. If you just put the effort in. Our success come from working.
The problem
that's how
is
we
you
get
made it look
success.
easy. That is part of the problem. Part of the
But
problem,
that's,
the way he
that
throws the ball,
comes
the way
from,
you finger
see,
roll.
but that comes from working. You know, people always say, oh man, you was a natural. I'm saying natural what? You don't know how many times I shot that jumper. You don't know how many times I rolled that ball. I mean, I made it look easy because I worked.
The school's changed an awful lot since you all went there, really. Okay, so.
Are you dating us a little bit? I mean,
Well,
we got
listen,
09 here.
You got to remember.
Going back to the 70s.
You got to remember, I went there too, and it's changed too.
I know.
So, Stephanie, let me start with you. You're about to witness a Game Above has helped the golf program in an immense way with an $8 million donation.
It's a pretty exciting time. They've come a long way. I mean, when we started practicing, we practiced in Bone Fieldhouse with the pole vaulters poles. We made squares and we chipped into them to practice in the
kidding.
winter.
Wow.
We hit golf balls outside in the winter.
This
I
is
got
10 years
hypothermia
ago.
once. So the ability, I mean,
So having the
it's
tools
night and
matter.
day. Having the tools matter. We're competing against teams that are practicing year round. You know,
But even as Stephanie and I were talking before camera, is that getting the chance to get the women's team and the men's team to hang out together, because that's what we're going to have. There's going to be a beautiful center that they can all share that facility. Having the ability to come back together and share that, I think that's going to be exciting, right?
you know, golf's a sport that men and women play real differently. I mean, the outcome's quite often the same, but being able to just practice together and learn, you know, different things. We both play the game very differently, so.
A lot of people would look at that and say, wow, the golf program, huh? Why do you think that was so important?
Well, Bruce is a great friend, and we've had a chance, you know, to support him and the teams, and now a chance to support the women for me and all of us is huge. You got a coach that won the MAC championship last year, and he hasn't had any facilities, so the time is way overdue.
You don't realize how big of an outreach you have on different kids and different athletes and everybody. There's just a big impact, and I think that's, you know, that's kind of why we all do it.
And I think there's a lot of alumni out there. They're like, I might not have the money to be able to make a huge impact, but how can I come back? You know, how I want to do an alumni tailgate. I want to have a program that, you know, maybe I wasn't an athlete, but hey, if we're starting a STEM focused program and I'm an engineer that graduated, so hey, can I come back and volunteer with that program? The more we get alumni to be engaged and know that you don't have to be famous and you don't have to be rich in order to
be part of something that
be
can move the needle.
And to be a proud alumni.
Yeah. We need to move the needle. You know, that maybe it's some old adage, but we want to control that narrative, and that's what's happening, right? We think about this faculty first. You know, that was our first initiative, and that wasn't window dressing. That really was something fundamentally for me, and as we talked about it as a group, we needed to let this faculty know that they matter. They really matter. And then we've had many meetings with the student senate, the president of the senate. We sat with them, say, hey, what do you need? It was to let them know that financial decisions weren't going to be the reason that they don't go to Eastern. We're coming together. I don't know of any school, actually, and I've done a lot of research to find that's done a group like this.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And that's
it's a collective thing.
Right. I agree with you, but I think too many people feel like Game Above is only for sports facilities.
No.
It's not.
I didn't play sports there, right?
Right.
The social science didn't play. You know, I did sports in school, so I get that whole thing.
But the give back is not just for the athletic department or facilities.
Think
you
of the
talked about
community.
the faculty and ozone.
Ozone is
Explain
awesome.
the ozone
house.
because that's really
well. I got to
impactful.
give kudos to a roommate of mine back at Eastern who was with us. This is Jeff Bourdon. But Jeff went out and found this thing. Now he sat with the Eastern folks and say, hey, where do we need to impact? But the Ozone House is taking in young people that are homeless, right? When we went to school, I don't know that I knew of anybody homeless going to Eastern. Well, it's a big problem. Yeah. You know, it's big from California all the way to Michigan, it's an issue. So the Ozone House will take kids in, kids that are even going to school at Eastern. So we've given $500,000 to that. We've got a social worker that's part of that plan. The list of opportunities for us is endless. So I think over the next 24 hours, we're all going to sit down and say, where can we best put our resources and time? And it's not just money, because everybody's playing in on this thing.
When I played, you know, and it's been a while ago, but, you know, I ran into a lot of alumni.
Yeah.
I mean, and they want to have this association. I mean, they just don't know where to go. I mean, so.
They got it now.
I mean, you know, we have, you know, the more we do this, the more ideas we come up with.
we've done our sports thing. I think we've got a good foundation laid out. We've talked about the faculty, but it's about students now and how we can bring innovation in. And you got some exciting things that we're going to launch here.
I think just where we're sitting at today already, we just got started.
Yeah.
Is leaps and bounds where we thought we could have, gone in this early stage. And it's just the people. It's the people in the group. It's the people that support us, that make this thing go. Because if we were all sitting here and we had any doubt in our mind that this isn't going to be successful, it wouldn't be. But it's 100% commitment and belief.
It tells me, and should tell everybody, an awful lot about the people at this table who have reached such great heights in whatever you did. Okay, whether it be business, current business, former in golf, basketball, football, volleyball, football, to be willing to not just listen, but also follow each other. That's not easy. You guys have all been leaders at what you've done in life, especially you.
Well.
And for you to open it up and say, you know what, sure, I'll take your advice. After the success you've all had, that speaks volumes, not just about you, but about Game Above and about Eastern Michigan as well. Thanks for joining us.